I was younger, my mom asked me, what are you? What are you? And I was 2 and I was watching the Muppets and I saw Kermit the Frog. I said, I'm a frog. And then she dressed me up like a frog. And then she shaved my head and painted my skin and started feeding me flies. And then I was 15 and I saw somebody playing this game called Frogger. And I was like, now finally, I got an idea. And I just ran out in the traffic. I just couldn't take it anymore.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of I Didn't Read Your Book. I am your host, Lutch, and today we are going to be talking with Ron McDermott about his book, The Boy Who Cried Meow. So checking out the cover here, we are clearly looking at another children's book. So there's a number of different ways that I get authors for the show. And one of those ways is the Cast Castle vlog. An offshoot of Timcast, Timpool, that whole thing. They have a compound where they do their work, and there is a daily vlog that they have somebody filming stuff, and every day they put out 10, 15-minute video, and a significant portion of that vlog is opening fan mail. And I just, happened to be watching one day to just check out, what is this? I don't really follow many vlogs. But I care very much about what's going on with Tim Pool and that entire company. So, I peeked in, I wanted to see what was going on. And then they were opening some fan mail. And for those of you who are familiar with the channel and know Blaine Pardoe, he was our guest 2 weeks ago and earlier guest for his book, Blue Dawn. Both great episodes that you should check out. But I found him by him sending Blue Dawn to the Cast Castle people. And I saw the book, I saw the name, I found him, and we had some interesting conversations. So this is another author who has done the exact same thing that Blaine has done, and I did the exact same thing that I did with Blaine. If you're asking why we're talking about a children's book and how much can really come out of a children's book, I don't really know because, again, I haven't read the book and I don't know what it's about. But the fact that Ron would decide to send it to the people at Cast Castle tells me that there is some underlying message that sets this aside from just your average book that is meant to entertain a child. I would say let's dive right in and read the back of the book, but there is nothing on the back of the book. So usually we're going in semi-blind. We have some idea of what's going on with, the synopsis. But even though that is pretty standard, I don't think we've ever had a book with nothing to go on before. We've seen that always isn't the most helpful thing. And so for me to be going in completely blind, as opposed to mostly blind with some idea, I think we're going to be able to have just as interesting a conversation as we always do. And I'm very excited to see what The Boy Who Cried Meow is clearly a play on The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and what that means and how that is relevant to our society. So that's what we've got with this one. So without further ado, let's bring in Ron. All right. And there he is, Ron McDermott. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. So we just finished trying to read the back of your book, and there was nothing there. So typically typically you'll find some type of synopsis on the back of a book to let people know what's inside. I'm curious if there is a particular reason that you decided not to do that, or if there is, or if you just felt like, okay, it's simple enough. It's a boy who cried meow, and that's the book.
Yeah, I thought it was simple enough. Honestly, I just self-published that. I didn't put, I had thought of the story, but I didn't have really a lot of thought about how to put a book together. So it was kind of, just uploading the pages and uploading a back. I don't think I have a picture of me doing this or anything on it, anything serious. The typical author pose.
Yep.
No, it was just almost just to put it together for friends and family. So I guess the next printing, I'll have to put something on the back that at least gives some kind of clue. There's not a lot of text overall, it's a little kid's book.
So what is it about? You know, I assume it's a play on The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Yes,
Okay.
but not the story
Mhm.
generally, but the obviously the title. So I was camping. My family and another family, we were camping, and we had some. At the time, it was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and there a couple of kids were pretty young. And as we were sitting around the camper just talking, at some point I just said, there once was a boy who cried meow. And then trying to entertain the kids. And then I would come up with a line like, he was walking through the living room and stubbed his toe, and he did not scream ow. Instead, he cried meow.
Meow.
And so as I did that, a couple of the younger kids would finish the meow part. And I thought, they were entertained. I'm making up, he his dog didn't give him a big his dog greeting him with a big bow wow. He cried back meow.
Meow.
So I'm like, okay. So then after the next week or so, I'm trying to think of rhymes that make sense, trying to put it together in a story. And my whole goal in having this book, or the target would be, hey, you got small kids, you want them to go to bed. They said, read me a story. You want that a story that they're familiar with, that they can repeat, that they can participate in. And for me, it's short, like, in and out, bedtime. I don't want to get the Bible out to read for the bedtime story, and
means
we're
to
up
an
for
end.
hours. Yeah. So, that was, kind of how I started it and put it together.
So what made you, is there a political message in this? What made you decide to send it to the Cass Castle?
I said it because Lydia was she was engaged. By the time she got it, she was then married. So I feel like if I'd waited a little bit longer, she'd have her first child.
Right. Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar, Lydia is the producer of the Timcast IRL show, very prominent on the Cass Castle vlog where I was talking about earlier. And two of the two of the characters got married, Lydia being one of them. So interesting, because I would have I assumed that there was some type of political angle to it, and that's why the decision was to send it to them specifically. So interesting. That definitely changes where I thought this conversation was going to go. But that I guess in general, I'm curious. It would be very easy for somebody who hears the name Tim Pool and thinks about the whatever types of politics that he's getting into, and to think of children's education being very separate from that. I think a lot of people think that they're very closely connected, but to those who think that the evil right wing or the bad conservatives or the Republicans are this or that, what would you say that to about that, or to them about the notion of telling stories to children?
So as far as having a political message in the story, or
just the idea of, hey, I have this story, and I wanted to send it to these political guys. So even if there's no political message in this particular book, there is value that it gives, just entertaining children. And it a lot of people would see, like, what do you mean this right winger is writing stuff for kids? Like, that can't be.
Well, first of all, how do you know I'm a right winger? You didn't read the back of the book, so you don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think kids are indoctrinated enough into everything. I mean, the Tuttle Twins have that whole genre of kind of like telling messages to kids. Rush Limbaugh had a series of kids' books, kind of to teach history and the American view. But I mean, you can have kids' books that don't really have a moral, that are not like, leaning into one direction or another. I hope.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you obviously didn't read the book, and I've never watched your podcast. So
fair enough.
I did look it up on YouTube, and I was going to watch them. I'm like, no, I can't watch his podcast.
We got to be even. Yeah.
I haven't watched your podcast. The book has a twist that Lydia didn't get when she read through it. Did you watch her read through the book?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So she basically read through the whole book. And at the end, it has a twist where the boy who cries meow was a cat all along. So I go back and I have all the pictures where he was crying meow, and then he's replaced with the cat.
Interesting.
And so some people get that. Some people,
I did not get that.
Well, you didn't see did you see the pictures or?
Well, no, I just heard her reading it.
Yeah. She didn't get it. She's like, oh, there's a cat there. But she didn't realize that the boy was gone. My nieces, one of the first printings, I gave it to a couple of my nieces, and some of their friends were reading through it, and they're like 15, 16. And they got to the end and they're like, wait a minute. And they're looking at the pictures of the cat. And then they go back to the front and they're like, oh, it was a cat the whole time. And I'm like, okay, that works on some level for some people. So,
yeah,
but no moral message, just a twist at the end.
That's it. That's its own, I think, surprise. And the fact that my mind went there immediately, whether it came from a politically based, whether or not I saw you and the book on a politically based show or not, the fact that my mind went to, okay, this must have some type of message. This must be somebody's trying to push this or that. I don't know that that's a good thing. That we should have more stuff for children that's just fun, that's just entertaining. It seems like I'm realizing more than I thought that everything, especially dealing with children these days, has to do with pushing a message or teaching morals that may or may not be considered moral by other people. So it actually is quite refreshing to say, yeah, I happen to listen to this show that has this type of politics, and also separately, I want my children to be entertained. What do you have to say about the certainly there are values that you would want instilled in children and in with children's education, but I'm sure you would agree, or maybe you wouldn't, that notion that I was just talking about of having to have some deep message and in almost indoctrinating children has become really widespread. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree. I try to think back when I was younger, and I'm over 50. So, but I don't remember having any kind of political views or thinking anything. I think the first thing I remember was when I think it was 76 when Carter was running, and my mom came back and said she voted for Carter. It might have been 80 when he was running against Reagan. And she said that she had voted for Carter. I was like, why would you vote for that guy? It was 80 because he had already been the president for 4 years. If you don't know who Carter is, just look at Biden, and then somebody that has maybe more of a Southern accent and is younger.
That's a good way to put it.
Even today, I think Carter is younger than Joe Biden today.
I think so. Yeah. Maybe
he might look younger. He's out building houses. So I think he's
and speaking in full sentences.
Yes. Yeah. So, but yeah, when I was a kid, I don't think, I remember that. And then I remember I used to deliver pizza in high school, and, you're out on the road. It's great. You're doing your own thing. You're listening to the radio. But after a while, it was just the same song, like in a rotation. So I started listening to AM radio. And I think this was pre-Rush Limbaugh, right around the time. And AM was like, there was a guy, Barry Farber, who was like a conservative guy. There was a guy, Bruce Williams, who talked about business. He had a bunch of businesses. He had been in politics. It wasn't really political. And then a handful of people. And then I started listening to Rush. And G. Gordon Liddy. Do you know who that is?
I know the name.
He had a radio show for years. I think he just passed away, but he worked for Nixon. He was kind of part of Watergate, kind of did a lot of it. He wrote a really great book called Will back in the late 70s, and it's about his life and how he grew up kind of afraid of things, and then how he overcame his fears. It's a great book. But anyway, I don't know. So we were talking about kids in politics.
Yeah.
So I guess I had a little bit of political arc, but not much. But and then I'm around like I have a fiance and her son. She has a 9-year-old son, and he'll start talking about Biden or Trump or politics or whatever, and he's just kind of he's hashing something he heard from somebody in the family or somebody on the radio or whatever, and it's like you don't need to worry about that.
Right.
It's great, when he says something that's kind of conservative or capitalist. I'm like, yeah, but you don't need to deal with that.
So that's an interesting juxtaposition to and obviously as a fan of Tim Pool, I consider myself I like to call myself a 2015 liberal. I was I was not really too into politics in Obama was elected when I was in college, and I've heard this story before, suck it up, but it was just a random night in college. I was in my friend's dorm and I was walking back to my dorm, and there was a bunch of people cheering outside. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, there's never this many people in the quad or the courtyard or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, first black president ever. Okay, maybe I should be paying attention to this kind of stuff. And then I still didn't pay too much attention. And then right around 2014, 2015 is when the media went into overdrive about the world is going to end if Donald Trump becomes president. And being, more or less uninitiated, I listened to them. And I was like, oh shit, we gotta make sure this guy doesn't get in office. And probably the worst thing I ever did was vote for Hillary. I was a Bernie bro at the time. I thought that was a good way to go. And then, like I said, I was just listening to MSNBC and CNN. And then when they screwed him out of the nomination, I was like, okay, I guess I don't have any other choices left. And so seeing how that's all played out, and I'm not a huge fan of Trump, but it certainly wasn't the end of the world. And so I vowed never again to vote for vote against anybody ever again. I will only vote for somebody. And so that was my big political awakening there. But yeah, so there's a lot of and I feel like a little bit of an outsider on that, because again, there's so much on the liberal side that is focused on children and what children are learning and how children are seeing the world. And there's a lot that's changing, some good, some bad, but the rate of change that we're having is so quick that the assumption is that any new idea is inherently good, and therefore we need to shove it down children's throats to make sure that they get rid of all the antiquated stuff that we used to believe all the way back in 2019 and stuff like that. And it's just a little bit alarming that that's the route that politics is taking, is going younger and younger, and in some ways taking a more insidious route.
Yeah, I agree. When I was in college, we had, I was in the electronic media, radio, television, broadcasting, and we had definitely had some liberal professors, and this was Gulf War I. So I really remember, even back then, it's not like a new thing. You've had liberal professors since, I don't know, the 60s or whatever. But I kind of at the time, just, I was conservative at the time, I guess, because of Rush Limbaugh or listening to all these different people in radio. And I think I just kind of said what I needed to say and or didn't say what I didn't need to say, to get the grades. But now, like you were saying, it's like they're getting into kindergarten. It used to be college, and then, you had your high school, you had that one liberal art teacher, you know, with the curly long hair and the color in it, you know,
A
and
little kooky, but
she was
she
having an
kept to her.
affair with
Yeah.
a guidance counselor. I'm not saying that happened in my high school, but I think it did. And then you had, like, you know, the guys with the shirt and tie that's from, you know, 20
Mhm.
years ago that they're still wearing, and they've got kids and a family and stuff. But, you know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, that how they, you know, these teachers want the children. Well, when I come back from the weekend, and me and my other significant other were parasailing, and how do I not tell the children? I'm like, I didn't know anything about my teachers.
Exactly.
I honestly, I had one teacher I knew that she got married, because I went to a Catholic school, and she had some of the boys be servers for her wedding. I wasn't a server. And the thing that stood out was her last name went from basically rhymed one word to the new word. So I don't want to say it. Say it went from Smith to Jiff, you know?
Gotcha.
And I was like, that stood out. And this was like in 6th grade or something. But anybody else, I don't think I ever saw pictures. My principal in high school, his daughter was in my class, and his wife worked in the lunch line. So I knew them, but I didn't know anybody else.
And I same
I had no idea if they were.
Yeah, same exact thing. And I'm 32. I graduated high school in 2008. So even at that time, you know, it seems like things were, you know, going on a certain trajectory. And then right around that time, that 2014, 2015, 2016, things just went into overdrive, and the rate of change just went on a parabolic, like everything has been overhauled. And if you're not up to date on every little thing, you are a bad person. You're a bigot. You hate these people. You're afraid of this. It's frustrating, because as somebody who, you know, for a long time, you know, conservative or Republican was almost like a bad word to me. I was like, like my dad grew up a Republican, and, you know, we had a lot of disagreements over the years. You know, just being a young, uninitiated kid, you know, the natural place to find yourself is on the liberal side of things. And I do still think that if the Overton window hadn't shifted so far to the left, that I still would comfortably call myself a liberal. But so many of the quote unquote liberal values that have come about so recently are so much of a jump from the extension of, okay, you know, we want gay people to be able to get married and not have any issues, and, you know, the civil unions are not exactly the same. Cool, I'm with that. And then now it goes to drag queen story hour. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, this was what, you know, when at the time liberals like myself were making fun of Republicans and conservatives who were saying, oh, well, this is going to happen, it's going to turn to that. It's like, oh, come on. That's just, you know, alarmist, slippery slopes. And then here we are.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say, like, okay, well, you know, a lot of that stuff that people were alarmed about is coming true exactly the way that it was said. And so I don't have anything against people expressing themselves the way that they want, or, you know, living their own truth. I feel like that's kind of, you know, a stupid way of, you know, going about the world. But hey, do your thing, you know. And but when it comes down to A, the children, and then B, forcing me to adhere to your ideology, that's where things get muddy, because it's not just about the fact that your ideas may not be, you know, unequivocally correct. They may be good for you, but that doesn't mean that they are 100%, you know, the reality. And then just indoctrinating children. You know, I am kind of on a boat that not too many other people are, where now, because of all the political landscape shifting, I don't call myself a conservative, but everybody else calls me a conservative at this point. And I don't have an issue with it. But I'm also quite strongly an atheist. And I was brought up Catholic, and I'm very much against religious dogma. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not good stuff in religion, but, you know, organized religion as a whole, that used to be the big enemy, the religious right. That used to be what was the biggest threat to my way of life or my values being propagated through society. And now it's not. It's just changed, and now it's the liberal, far left ideology. In any way that you want to cut it, it comes down on this black and white zero sum. You agree with me or you are wrong, and all this. And I mean, you tell me. It was like I said, I was not initiated before 2014, 2015. That's not always how it was with the left and right. Right? I mean, there was
No,
there
yeah, it
was
wasn't like that at all.
there was
I mean, if
partisanship.
you go back and look at, I mean, I think people bring him up a lot, but Kennedy would be considered super far right wing,
Oh yeah.
and they were still progressives, they were still, forward thinking progressives. But I mean, back when Reagan was in, even, Bush, Clinton, Bill Clinton, he was working with the Republicans in Congress and stuff. And it wasn't, I mean, now it seems like what it is now is that there's, Tim talks about, the fractions or the, what's he say, my group or my whatever he calls it, the allegiance to each side. And it seems like,
So sorry to interrupt your podcast experience. I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying what you're watching, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And if you really love it, there's some support links in the description. I would love if you could help out the channel. And back to the show.
there's so much hatred on the left to the right, like the left hating the right existing, that it's like, oh, you know what the right would hate? If we gave children puberty blockers, they'd really hate that. So let's get every kid we can on puberty blockers. It's like, don't you realize that this is maybe not a good thing? Yeah, but Trump hates it, so we're gonna do it.
Exactly.
The Trump people hate it. MAGA, they hate this. So it seems like everything they do, they just like, what they'd hate? They'd hate it if we got some guys with like beards and makeup and dresses with a thong on, telling your kindergartners, like reading a story about how you can be any sex. It's like, why are you doing this? Because they hate it. They know their enemy hates it, so they're just going to keep doing it, and they can't stop. I mean, I think Adam. You ever listen to Adam Carolla? Watch Adam Carolla?
Yeah.
I think he says something along the lines of, just because it's progressive doesn't mean it's better. It can be backwards and be progressive, but you're really regressing. Just because it's new doesn't make it better. Doesn't make it better. So I don't know. I get frustrated with the whole painting the right as, like, you were talking about marriage, and they're like, people would ask me. I hang out with some people, and they're a couple guys that are professors, that are retired professors from university and stuff, and they know I'm conservative, and they would say something along the lines of, well, what do you think about gay marriage? I'm like, I don't think the government should be involved in marriage. I think it's a tax. It's just a way for the government to make money. No, but what do you think? Should a man be able to be a man? I'm like, I don't care. I don't think there should be anything, do it in church or whatever. I don't think the government should be involved in any way. So yeah, but what do you, and I'm like, I just told you 10 times, I don't care. And I care so little that I don't think the government should be involved at all. It's just like, I don't know. It's crazy because they try to paint the right as, I think Tim does this. He talks about like the Nazis being far right. I'm like, they're socialists. They were leftists. They were fascists. They're not right at all. That's left. You want to go far right, you go to, anarchists. So you get like conservative, libertarian, anarchists, who just say no government at all. And then if you go to the left, it's more government, more government, more government, more control, more control, more control. That's where the communism and the Nazis are. Not on the right. When they always try to paint the right as Nazis, I'm like, no, we don't care. I mean, there might be some religious people that care for religious reasons, but most of us don't care.
And that's something that I found as I've been trying to, I defaulted as a liberal when I really didn't know anything. And then as I learned more, I found myself more, I think it's far more accurate to call myself a libertarian. But even so, the difference between being a libertarian or a conservative, it's mostly in like one or two issues, and then what you feel comfortable labeling yourself. But on the left, it seems so conformist and so uniform that everybody is either thinking the exact same thing or you're cast out. And on the right, it seems like there are people who have ideas that maybe I don't necessarily agree with, but I can sit and have a conversation with them. And not to say, there's plenty of IDRYB live panels that I host with people on the far left that are willing to have these conversations. But by and large, it's not something that I feel comfortable speaking about, regardless of the issue. If I know that I don't adhere to the establishment narrative, then I know that there's guards up, and if they're just waiting for you to say the wrong thing. And it's become less about policy, politics and policy. It becomes less about that, and it's more about trendiness, and it's more about, are you in the club? Are you one of us? And it's just going back to the whole idea of indoctrinating children. That's the whole that's one of the big reasons that I had an issue with religion in the first place, is because of shoving ideas down children's throats. And again, now it's not really the religious right that's doing that. It's the same exact people that I was standing next to at atheist rallies or this, that, and saying how bad, the religious right was hurting our children and causing this, that, and the other because of this religious thing, whatever the case may be. And now it's those exact same people who are doing the exact same thing, but instead of a religious dogma, it's a political ideology that they use as their dogma. And it's frustrating, because I do think there's a lot of good-hearted people, but the whole NPC thing, how many people are really paying attention, and how many people are really trying to figure out what's going on, and how many people are just trying to figure out what the right thing is to say, and what's how to be on the right team. It's frustrating. And if people were more willing to just kind of not be involved, then that might not be such an issue, because if you're not involved in politics, you're not involved in politics. But that doesn't exist anymore. At least it seems like you either are super into this narrative, super into that narrative, or you don't really know, so you kind of default to the left. I mean, does that seem accurate to you?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I'll talk to people that are like educated, but they're educated by NPR or CNN, and I bring up something famously for my friends. Hillary Clinton, she's after Benghazi said, "What's it matter if those guys are dead? Now it's done. It's I don't know if you remember that." And it was on video. And I was talking to this guy, university professor, and I mentioned that. She never said that. I'm like, yeah, you didn't see that? How could you not see that? It was in front of Congress. No. I bring it up on YouTube on my phone. He literally is like, that's not real. He literally was doing the, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil thing. Literally did not even want to watch it. And I'm like,
yep.
I think Tim had a guest on that said something similar, where somebody showed him the video of Trump making fun of somebody, and then he had to go back and like kind of reassess, so most of those people, they don't want to look. That guy took the dive. He dove in, he watched it, he was being intellectually honest. These people are not intellectually honest. I get in discussions with them, and I'll say, well, I thought it was this, and they're very convincing, oh no, yeah, that never happened. This is what happened. And I go, oh, I thought I saw that or read it. Then I go back and I'm like, oh no, I was right.
Exactly.
And then I show them, I'll send an email like, hey, is this what we were talking about? Right. And they don't reply. And then the next time you see them,
that's how you know you're right.
It up. They don't even bring it up the next time.
They'll go on and on.
I know it's on to the next thing that they're wrong about.
Exactly.
You guys are wrong every time. And you just go on to the next thing. You know, these guys, I bring up these two guys that were professors because we get together, me and a bunch of guys get together and we smoke cigars and, you know, sit around, smoke cigars, drink bourbon, hang out and talk. And a lot of times it's politics. And these guys that are professors, they'll go on about something. We're talking about COVID, and I was talking about natural immunity versus, you know, getting vaccinated. And the one guy was telling me, or no, I said, well, if you get natural immunity, that lasts forever. Oh, no, that, you know, and I said, why? You know, they said, no, you can get it again, which apparently you can. Maybe, I don't know. I had it. I haven't gotten it again. The people that I know that had it got vaccinated. They got it again. But I don't know anybody that had it that didn't get vaccinated after they had it and got it again. But I mean, that's all.
No jab, no Rona right here. No jab, no Rona.
Well, you might have had it and not known.
I do actually think, I know a lot of people say this, but I never get sick. And I'm an avid cannabis enthusiast. And I have a working theory that over the years of, you know, sharing saliva, passing around blunts, that, you know, maybe that gives your immune system a big boost. I don't know, but I never get sick. And then November 2019, I remember there was a week where I was just like, not even sick, but just not feeling so great. And then I kind of got over it. And then that's when everything started. And, you know, I know everybody's saying, I think I had it back, but I really think I had it back in November 2019. But yeah, I just, you know, it was super interesting because, Dad, sorry to call you out again. But when all of this stuff started, it was, you know, my older brother and my younger sister are both, they both live in Philly, and they're both very liberal. And so naturally, they were very weary about things. And, you know, I was uninvited to Christmas. I was uninvited to Thanksgiving, which is usually my birthday celebration, because usually they fall on the same week, if not the same exact day. But I was uninvited. Even Christmas last minute, I was supposed to get Christmas. They were going to do Thanksgiving, but they decided to go, whatever. And early on, my dad and I would kind of, you know, not laugh at them, but kind of, you know, chuckle to ourselves that we're hanging out. And, you know, we both are from Jersey. And you know, I'd go visit him. We'd be hanging out, watching TV, whatever. And then the Delta variant came around. And all of a sudden, my dad was like, uh-oh, I think, you know, this is supposed to be serious. And like, dude, this is the same, as Tim says, this is the same people that believe in Jesse Smollett and the Covington kids and the, you know, go down the list. Yeah. And it's like, what changed from the original variant to this variant that, you know, and keep in mind, my dad's a doctor. So he knows that when viruses mutate, they get weaker as they mutate. And, you know, the fact is people were dying. So I'm not in a position to say like, oh, you guys are just this, that. People were dying. So, you know, think what you want to think. But it was so strange how much the media was directing people's emotions and not the science, even as people were saying, trust the science. And I mean,
going back to these guys, we were talking about, like, you know, one's a professor of biology and the other one was doing some kind of also, you know, some kind of biological testing or something or studies. But he went on a 30-minute like lecture to all of us about how you could get rubella. I think it was rubella. You can get that again. You can get, you know, if you get it, you can get it again a year later, 2 weeks, or, you know, 2 years later. I'm like, really? Because at the time I was doing a lot of research, looking up studies on viruses and how long you have immunity. Because I don't know if you heard about the Iceland with the measles. I think it was Iceland. They, in the 20s, basically everybody on the island got measles. And then 80 years goes by. Nobody's ever had measles. And then
natural immunity.
And somebody comes in that has measles, and like all the younger people start getting it, but anybody that was living there at the time didn't get it. You're immune to measles. You get measles, you're immune to measles for, you know, ever.
Mhm.
So this guy goes on this 30-minute lecture to everybody, and he's very convincing. He knows all the facts. Rubella. I get home 5 minutes. Japan has a study. It studies 200 years. They look at, if you would live 200 years, you'd be immune to rubella forever. And I'm like, this guy's telling me this stuff. Everybody's listening to him, and he's completely wrong. He's just making it up. And it's like, and then I pointed out to him.
Was his name Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. So I actually came up with I these guys, they'll look at Fauci or each other, and they're always just like, oh yeah, whatever they say. And so I think they have an accreditation bias, is my little theory, where he's accredited.
Are you a doctor?
Like yeah, but if this guy's wrong, if Fauci's wrong, that means people could think I'm wrong, because we're both doctors. We both have these, backgrounds and this and that. So they just support each other. It's like, I don't know how else the whole pandemic thing could have gone so wrong. I mean, you had doctors coming out saying hydroxychloroquine, we've used it in Africa on, people for 60 years. These people that are taking it are not getting COVID. I've treated patients with it, 300 at this hospital treated it. And it's like, you're telling them to put fish cleaner in their body. It's like, what happened to science? Ivermectin. You're putting I work with people when I work at a hospital, and they had a patient who the doctor had prescribed ivermectin, and the hospital wouldn't give it to him. They had to go to court, and the hospital sent an email out to the employees proudly saying, we're fighting this. And I'm like, hey, he died, but thank God we didn't give him ivermectin.
Oh man.
I don't know if he died. I don't know that. But that's the line to me. It's like, hey,
they would happily do that.
Yeah. It's like, why are you doing this? If you look, like there's, and I'm not a chemist, so I don't know, but I know that I think Pfizer and Merck or somebody, that both came out with like a pill now that you're supposed to take for COVID, that you could take as like a treatment kind of. And if you look at them, they're both kind of like, one has a lot of the same stuff as hydroxychloroquine, same molecules, or at least, some of the same things. And the other one's got a lot of the same stuff of ivermectin. It's like, let's see. Ivermectin is $4 a pill. Hydroxychloroquine is like a nickel a pill. And, your new pill is how much? Oh, it's $150 or $7. Actually, it was like $700 a dose or something insane. It's like, let's see. I don't know. I don't know why you would be against the free stuff.
Yeah. And of course, it's all the people who 5 years ago were, out there marching against Big Pharma.
Oh, yeah.
Now are like, mandates this, mandates that. It's like, can we have some consistency? Like, I get originally my position on the jab was, I don't really feel like, because I've never gotten a flu shot, never gotten the flu. Just feels like, something superfluous. And that was never something that ostracized me from society.
Yeah.
But I pretty much took the same type of approach here, understanding that it was not the flu, understanding that it was something different. I still, as an adult, made the decision of what I want to do with my body. And that's it. That's the other irony there, that with all this Roe v. Wade stuff, that they want to say my body, my choice, but your body, my choice too. It's like, come on, guys. I'm trying to figure this out for real. But if you aren't coming to the table to speak about this with any intellectual honesty and integrity, then I have to. You are the one that's forcing me to retreat and say, okay, I don't know what's going on here. I know something shady is going on, so I'm just going to stay away from it. And it's just so much of it is backwards. So much.
Oh, yeah. We were in Universal, middle of the pandemic. We went down to Universal in Florida, and you had to wear a mask while you're walking around, which is insane. But then they had these areas, no mask zone. You could go over there and stand outside and take your mask off and talk to people and, I don't know, smoke a cigarette or something. But then when you walk back in over here, you have to put your mask back on. It's like,
just trust the science, bro.
What are we doing?
Trust the science.
It's like, you're on an airplane. You got to have your mask on unless you're eating food. It's like, so you're putting food in your mouth so COVID can't get out, or It's like, is it a danger or not? You're on an airplane. You put your phone in airplane mode, or the plane's going down. Really? Really?
That's great
I'm
technology.
guessing the guys from Al Qaeda would like to know that so they could sneak on a plane and turn the phones on and take
That
it
would
down.
be that's a great point that I never thought of.
It's like,
How
no,
easy would it be to?
Yeah, if that was true, they would confiscate your phones and give it back to you when you got off the plane. It's not true. I think it stemmed from back in the day. They had phones on planes, and you could call somebody from the plane, but it cost a fortune.
Yeah,
you know. And then
in
they
the back of
had
the seat, right?
and they had like movies and stuff. And I think it stems from that. They didn't want people to be able to, they wanted them to use their phone. And at the time, maybe they were thinking people could call, and they're not going to get the $20 a minute to use their phone. So other than that, I have no idea why they would tell you that.
Yeah, because I mean, they got Wi-Fi on phones or on planes now.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Did you hear that Pfizer has come out as pro-life?
I did not. What was?
Yeah, they just I was just reading it, and then I saw this other article, totally unrelated, that the CDC says that we can now give the vaccine to fetuses.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, totally unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to the book that you wrote, this is all the kind of stuff that somebody on I hate to generalize and just say on the left, but I don't have a better term. So people on the left, all the things that we're talking about, whatever their position is, I would expect them to feel like it's okay, and not only that it's okay, but that it's appropriate to take these opinions, whether they agreed or they took the complete opposite, and throw that at their children, and that these are things that children need to be concerned with. And I again, just especially myself coming into this conversation, assuming that, okay, boy who cried me, I assume that this had something to do with trans this, or okay, he's gonna make it seem like the kid thinks he's a cat to kind of do the man woman thing, and that really I wish that society wasn't that way. I wish it was more common. I wish it was easier for me to not know what a children's book was about, and to just be able to say, oh, this is probably just a book for kids, and that's it. It doesn't have to have some message. But so much of what is talked about and is produced for children does have that political underpinning, and it's a really sad thing.
I mean, you look at Disney, like they had the videos of the producers and creators at Disney, and they're like, yeah, I like to inject all my LGBT stuff into the stories. Just like, you mean the stories for the like 2-year-old, and yes, that's what they're doing. It's like, why are you doing this?
And the irony is that if you, I, as wherever on the political spectrum you want to put me, if you as a parent decide that you want to show your kid drag shows and stuff about sex outside of basic education, I do think that children at a relatively young age, not 3 years old, but maybe 8, 9, 10, getting into, you want to get in there before they're actually, by 13, 14 years old, kids are doing what they're going to do. So I definitely am in favor of sexual education for children. But there's a line, and that I didn't think that in, 2016, when I was in DC for the Reason Rally, a secular push for helping get this type of sexual education in schools, so that there was plenty of schools around the country that were abstinence only. And I still don't think that's a good thing. Kids are going to do what they're going to do. And so you want them to know the risks, the benefits, the options, all that kind of stuff. But that's so much different than exposing them to like kink type stuff, which, again, I hate to paint with such a broad brush, but it seems like the left is saying that, okay, kids need to know about kinks for reasons.
Yeah. Well,
Like
why
that
don't you
part.
want them to know? Why don't you want them to know?
Exactly.
What is wrong with you? It's like, they don't, well, first of all, I think, sex ed at, I don't know, 8th grade under, parents, let the parents decide how that works, and then if you want to say, well, some parents don't, well, you could send stuff home and say, here's our current, philosophy on sex ed for children, for kids your children's age, and read through it. But I don't,
Makes
the
sense
rest
to
of it
me.
is like high school. You can have biology class. There's some of these books I've seen that are kids books. They're like showing sex acts.
Yeah.
It goes back to, hey, what would the right really hate if we were showing sex acts to their kids?
And I mean, I would
it'll drive them crazy.
I would love to be able to sit here and say, like, oh, come on, that's conspiratorial. That's not really what it is. These people genuinely think that this is appropriate for kids. But it's getting harder and harder and harder to give the credit to people who are talking about this stuff. It's getting harder to say that these people are coming from a genuine place and we simply disagree. It's getting easier to say, like, I see what you're doing and I don't agree with it. And that's why, 6 months ago, if you'd call me a conservative, I'm not a fucking conservative. Like, get the fuck out of here. But
I
I
think it's
guess I'm a
like,
conservative. I don't know.
it's 6 months ago. I see what you're doing. You're trying to tell these little kids that they can dress up in a different gender, and you don't like it. So now we're going to have them looking at sex books when they're 4 years old, and you don't like that. So now we're going to bring in transvestite people to read these books to them. And then, did you see the one video of the it was like they brought in, I think it was, I don't know if it was a teacher or if they just brought somebody in. It was like a guy, in a dress, but he wasn't in a dress. He had a thong on. He's like on a high school stage with like a thong going up his butt and dancing around. I'm like, what is going on? How is this? Either they're purposely doing it or they're just insane.
Yep.
Because how could you?
Or
be
maybe you're just a
sane
bigot, boomer.
I'm not a boomer. I'm X, Generation X.
Gen X.
Yeah, I'm a
But
Gen
yeah,
Xer.
that's the approach. I mean, obviously this conversation has gotten a lot more political than the book calls for.
As you'd
But
hoped.
kind of. But I actually do try to stay away from the fact that we're agreeing on things. I try to stay away from debating on the actual podcast itself. There's a lot of other stuff on the channel if you are interested. There's a lot of things where I happily dive directly into the politics of whatever we're talking about. But I do really like to make the podcast itself about the books and about the author. But again, just the fact that you are, I want to say, uniquely out here just trying to push a book that is just entertaining for children and nothing more is so such it's a breath of fresh air. But it almost it catches me off guard because that's not what people are doing. And the notion that all of this stuff that's being shown to children is for their benefit. The other side of that usually is, okay, well, hide this stuff from this because hide this stuff from children because it's not beneficial to them. But it doesn't really present an alternative. I'm like, okay, how about we just talk about this? How about we just talk about a boy who thinks he's a cat, and not as an allegory for trans rights, but just because it's a fun
it was
thing.
this idea really, it's probably 4 or 5 years old, and it's literally before the trans craze, like the craziness that's going on. So who is it? Is it not Michael Knowles, but somebody from Daily Wire came out with that Johnny the Walrus book?
Yeah.
And
Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh, yeah. And I actually would, we would get in these discussions, and I would say, like, when I was younger, my mom asked me, what do you want to? What are you? And I'm like, I don't know. And I was 2, and I was watching the Muppets, and I saw Kermit the Frog, and my mom said, what are you? And I said, I'm a frog. And then she dressed me up like a frog, and then she shaved my head and painted my skin and started feeding me flies, and and started
Then I
shooting
was living
hormones
my
into me.
truth.
And yeah, and then I was 15 and I was a frog, and I saw somebody playing this game called Frogger, and I was like, now finally I got an idea, and I just ran out in the traffic. I just couldn't take it anymore. But that I had, like, I would, I'd make this little story up with my friends and stuff, and most of them were offended by it or whatever. But and I'm like, maybe I should make that a book. And then Johnny the Walrus comes out. I'm like, okay, well, no, I'll just stick with the non-political, whatever.
I think it's a great, just again, the fact that so many people on the right and the left are trying to get younger and younger and younger people to be on their side. I can't express how, I mean, obviously I'm not up to date on, I don't have any kids. I'm 32. I'm not reading children's literature. I don't really know what's out there in general. We've done a couple kids books on the channel before, but the as far as what the general tone of children's books are, I don't really have a pulse on that. But I definitely hear a lot about, oh, this book on the right is great for that, and this book on the left tells that, and people complaining about books on the right about this, and people complaining about books on the left about that. And I just want to thank you for putting something out there that's like, hey, this is for kids, that is just for kids.
Yeah.
That, like, let kids be kids.
Yeah. It was, and you haven't had to put kids to bed yet, bedtime, but it can be a big hassle. And it was just like, here's a nice little story. It's fast. It's your favorite story, because when you were 2 years old, you would say the meow part. Now you're reading along, all the words, you're reading along, and it's bedtime, and that's all there was to it, really. It wasn't, there's nothing else to it. It's simple, and just no message, no moral. You said about moral. There's no moral in the story. It's a cat that thinks he's a boy and hangs out with the family, and the family has a day of adventures. It starts when he wakes up and ends when he goes to bed.
I love that, because that's when there maybe there was a moral to the story when for most of the children's stuff that I consumed when I was a kid, but it wasn't political, and there was a lot of stuff that just like your book was just for fun, and the notion of getting kids involved in this this political whirlwind that's going on, especially in these times, like maybe 20 years ago, when politics were a little bit more palatable and what's the word, I guess, had some decorum, then maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing. But it's still the idea that, okay, we just want something wholesome for children, that is automatically categorized to the right.
Yeah.
Which
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's insane. It's like, why?
And that's why I'm okay with if people are going to call me conservative, then and I'm on the side of people who are like, hey, how about we just have some stuff that's just fun for kids and doesn't worry about what my political beliefs or your political beliefs are. For that to be something, a conservative type of idea, then okay, I guess that the landscape has changed enough that I'm a conservative now. That is what it is. I'm not.
Yeah, I feel like if I took it to a bookstore and said, hey, will you put this on your shelf? And they'd look through it and like, well, there's nobody in a wheelchair, there's not 3 moms or whatever, and they'd be like, it's garbage, get it out here.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing for them to sell. There's no and of course, it's when they sell based on that stuff, of course they are tokenizing or making commodifying those people's struggle or their life, their whatever it is that the left would categorize. It's corporate bullshit. It's pandering. It's all pandering.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And It's the people like you who are, again, just putting this book out because you had a reason to want to entertain your kids and put them to bed, and that's it. That's a wholesome family story. Outside of the story of the book, the story of you writing and publishing the book is also a wholesome story. But I could see so many people coming out, well, why not use this opportunity to X, Y, and
Oh
Z?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and it's just like, guys, you've jumped the shark. I can't be on board with really anything that you're saying, because everything is so heavily centered around your political ideology that even when we're talking about young children, you still feel the need to inject that. And it's not even a matter of whether I agree or disagree. It's just that's not subject matter that's appropriate for children under a certain age. And that, again,
yeah,
automatically is a right wing belief, and it's sad.
yeah. There's so much in Disney programming and Netflix and Amazon and stuff that it's a kid show, but it has all these political undertones, and it's like, just do a kid show. Well, and it's not new, really. It's not new. I mean, you've heard of Captain Planet
Yeah.
from the 80s. It was
Oh
like,
yeah.
save the planet, and then they'd have like Trump out there with a cigar, throwing his Big Mac wrapper on the ground and going, scoffing at the poor kids and stuff, and kicking dirt in their face. I mean, it's been going on forever, but it's almost like it changes. It's like their own religion, the left that has no religion, the right's big religious. It's like their own religion. It's like climate change. If we don't do all these things, then evil's going to strike us down from the sky and flood everybody. We're all going to die. It's not God, it's Gaia, but it's the same thing. It's the Earth's still going to kill us. If we don't have all these rituals we have to do, and then it moves on to, control. If you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill grandma. I don't ever. Grandma's never home. She's out playing tennis, right? Now you're going to kill your grandma. If you don't follow our rules, this plague is going to come and kill everybody. It's like,
I'm very happy.
You know,
I'm very happy that you use that terminology, because that is pretty much my calling card. Is that as an atheist who now finds himself in these conservative circles, there's some people, there's a disconnect, because conservatism and republicanism and religiosity are very closely entwined, whether or not you, as a conservative, each person is very religious or not. Those two things are very closely tied. And it is frustrating as an atheist that a lot of the morals and values that I hold happen to be the same as Christian values or whatever religious values. And that I like, my whole thing is that, like, hey, the Bible says, okay, treat people the way you want to be treated.
mm-hmm.
But it also says that a man walked on water, and that didn't happen. So how about we don't worry about what the Bible says, and we just see what it does say and take the good parts. And if it doesn't fit with our reality, then we get rid of it. Then we have all of your Christian values, and we don't there's nobody who can say, oh, you believe in silliness. You believe in this, that doesn't exist. Like, why does it have to be all or nothing? And the fact that you said the left is the new religion, that is exactly the way I feel. And I think a lot of people feel. And, if you, person watching this, are somebody that is on the left, and you are curious as to why people are so antagonistic to your views, then maybe you need to take a look in the mirror and see why these things are upsetting people so much. Because liberal ideology wasn't upsetting people like this 10 years ago, but now it is. So what's changed? And it's the fact that we've lost the liberal aspect of just living and just enjoying life, and not being tied to, okay, what is this going to mean? And exactly what The Boy Who Cried Meow delivers seems to have become less and less and less and less important to the liberal ideology. And I don't think there are many things, keeping our children happy and healthy, that can be more important. Now, whether they read a particular book or not is not what I'm, that's not the end all be all. That's not what I'm saying. But the notion that kids should be able to be kids and to live without having to worry about all the stuff that they absolutely will have to worry about for the rest of their lives, all the stuff that we hate dealing with, that we didn't have to deal with as kids, why are we putting that on them? And that that is the one thing that keeps me from fighting against anybody who wants to call me a conservative. If the conservatives are the only people who are looking out for the children, then hey, I guess I'm a conservative.
Well, the children are the future, so I think Whitney Houston said that. I think as a parent, your job is to raise an adult, right? You raise somebody that's going to be an adult. My soon-to-be stepson asked me a year ago or 6 months ago, "What's your greatest fear?" What's my greatest fear? I said, "Yeah, what's your greatest fear?" I said, "My greatest fear is that you and your sister are going to turn 18 and you're not going to be able to know how to take care of yourselves. You're not going to have a job. You're not going to have your own place to live." And he looked at me. He's like, "No, really? What's your greatest fear?" I'm like, "No, really. That's my greatest fear." And so, but just because you're teaching them to become an adult doesn't mean they need to be involved in adult stuff at 5 years old or 6 years old or 7 or 8 or even in high school. Get a job, get a car, get some freedom, get some independence. But you're not voting. You're not, you don't need to be completely indoctrinated into something when you're 2, 3, 4 years old, or even when you're 14. Let them, there's stages, there's a way to become an adult. And it's like, now it's like, oh, my Trump got elected. And my 4-year-old came up to me and said, "Dad, did Trump get elected?" And I said, "Yeah, son. We're all going to die."
And the whole room clapped.
Yeah. And we're all going to die. And the whole room clapped. It's like, if that's really what your kid's saying, we need to have CPS come and take that kid away from you, because that kid's life's going to be really messed up.
Yeah, the stress, just the stress alone of a kid worrying about this stuff. Like I'm an adult. I get stressed as hell thinking about politics. Why would you want to put that on not just a child, but an entire generation of children? That's what
you talked about the boomers. Think about what they did during the nuclear scare. The Russia's going to nuke us. Russia's going to nuke us. What did they do in school to make themselves safe?
Duck and cover
underneath a desk. It's like all you're doing is stressing these kids out. Every day they're thinking about, oh man, we might get nuked. I'm gonna have to dive under. It's not going to save them.
I'm gonna get vaporized anyway. Let them live.
Just don't tell them anything's happening.
Exactly.
All you're doing is traumatizing them.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because even thinking back to I was in 6th grade on 9/11, and I don't remember the exact context, but I was talking about this with somebody who was a little bit older than me, maybe a couple years older than me, and they were old enough to kind of see what was going on. In 6th grade, already I wasn't, initiated into this, into politics and topical events and stuff. And my school didn't, I know a lot of my friends who went to different schools, and like their schools had the news on and they were talking about it and all that kind of stuff. And my school just didn't. Like, I was I'm from Jersey. So, a lot of kids had parents who were working in the city. And just all day, people were getting called to the office and going home, and we're all just like, "What is going on?" And I did not need, like, luckily my dad wasn't working in the city that day, but he worked in he worked in the city, and like, if I needed to know anything about what had gone on, then my parents would have given me that information.
Yeah.
And I understand that there are bad parents, and there are parents who are not going back to like the sex ed stuff, or, if you're coming out as trans or whatever, that could be a dangerous situation if your parents are a certain way. I understand that. But to say, okay, we're going to give the rights of parents, we're going to take them away and we're going to give them to these teachers who, are hell-bent on talking about their weekend with their boyfriend on the lake with 7-year-olds. Like, the reply that, okay, parents could be this, that, or whatever is such a so far away from a relevant answer. Yet it's the rally cry of all these people who are saying, well, we have to protect these kids. Like, if you want to protect the kids, just let them be kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's more invested in the kids, the parents or the teachers? You know, the parent, and maybe Tim was saying this, somebody was bringing this up about the amount of time that the parents are spending with the kid from birth to 18 years. And then the teacher spending 1 year, 2 years of high school, 1 year with this kid, and not just that kid, but 30 other kids
Yeah.
or 60 other kids. And they're invested in each one of these kids more than the parents who's got, you know, they have 2 kids or 3 kids. You know, who's more invested in the child? The one that's been there, gave birth, you know, drove them home from the hospital, and they're going to be there till they're 18 or longer, or the teacher who's, you know, doing a social experiment. They're, you know, playing God or whatever they're doing. It's like, you know, but we should defer to the teacher. Like, really?
Yeah, the one who doesn't even know who they are wants to tell your kid who they are.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Why are we deferring to the teacher? I don't know.
And you know, there was, if you think back, there was a period where it was almost a tired stand-up comic bit where, you know, when I was a kid, if the teacher called your parents, you were in trouble. And now these days you call the parents and the parents are fighting with it. Like, there was a very short period of dynamics changing in the classroom. And like I was part of that, you know, when if I got in trouble at school and my parents were called, my parents trusted the school. But in this day and age, the landscape again is so much different that maybe it makes sense that the parents are looking to stick up for the kids and not just trusting teachers blindly. Maybe that isn't such a bad thing.
And now, if you get a call from the school, you're in trouble. You didn't call your son, you know, his preferred daughter name, pronouns or whatever, and they told the teacher, we called CPS. You know, yeah, how dare you? You know, it's, you know, it's the teachers they're in charge of your kid. The school, the government is in charge of your kid, not you. You know,
government's the new family unit, the new parents, and all of that.
Hillary said it takes a village to raise a kid, you know, and it's
she wasn't kidding.
No, she wants the village, not the parent. You know, she doesn't want the parent to raise a kid. She wants the village to raise your children. It's like, yeah, it's going to work out great.
Well, listen, I could talk to you about this stuff all day. But you know, getting back to the book itself, I think it is fantastic that my initial assumptions were wrong and that this has nothing to do with anything political, that this is just a way for kids to be entertained. It's a way for parents to help bond with their kids, spend time, have fun, all of that wholesome stuff that has nothing to do with wherever, like, somebody could completely disagree with every single thing that you've said on this podcast and still enjoy spending time reading The Boy Who Cried Meow to their children, right?
Yeah.
And
hopefully. And actually, dogs love it too. So I know you don't have any kids yet, but you know.
Hear that, Morty?
Yeah. It's got cats in it, so he's gonna love it.
Tear it apart.
Yeah, I don't think there's an, you know, if kids riding the backseat of a car is political, that happens, you know. Kids going to a farm is political. There's fireworks. So NRA might be involved, but no, yeah, it's just a story, you know. And hopefully I've got another idea I want to work out, but you know, this has not really got any traction, but I haven't really promoted it at all. I just, like I said, I just kind of did it for myself and for the family, you know, and for, you know, the kids in the family, but it's on Amazon. So, you know, maybe it'll get some traction at some point. And then I'll be like, oh,
what is it called?
No, the other one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't even say the name.
Oh, we're keeping secrets.
It's like this one. It would give away the,
gotcha.
It's somebody the something. But it's not Johnny the Walrus. And it was an idea that I had, you know, a while back too. And it's just totally not political either. You know, it's a little bit, it would be more for older kids, a little bit older than this one. You know, but
Well, whenever
Who
you finish
knows?
that, you have an open
Yeah.
invitation to the platform. I definitely need people like you who are, doing doing this kind of work. It's not. I would imagine that you didn't spend forever and a day poring over the exact prose of what's written in the book, but the value that you're providing with something like this is, at least from my perspective, something that is very much needed. And I just want to thank you for putting that out there. I want to thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. I'm going to give you the floor. If you have websites, social media, other books, anything to plug, the floor is yours.
Well, like I said, it's on Amazon, so you can just go to Amazon, punch in "The Boy Who Cried Meow." You're going to find 50 books that probably say "The Boy That Cried Wolf," so you'll have to scroll down until you find it. I'm on Facebook, and that's about it, really. Like I said, I haven't really been good at promoting it. I should get better at that, I guess. But maybe somebody buys. If I sell 2 this week, then I'll start promoting it.
Well, that's what we're doing
I might
here.
get a billboard in Times Square.
There you go.
I
And
mean,
now,
really, if it's, what did he say? It was like $400 or
yeah,
something.
cheap. Not that. I mean,
Honestly, that's I could do that.
why
I
not?
don't. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
That would definitely get you some traction.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on and talking about all of this stuff, not just the book, but your thoughts that may not be very popular with people who may be
Everybody.
interested in yeah, and it takes a lot to put yourself out there, and I really do appreciate it. And again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the conversation.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. And now I can watch your podcast.
Now I can
Now
read
I can.
your
Yeah. Now you
now
can
I can
read the
read your
book. Yeah.
book. All right. Well, you have a great day.
All right. You too. Thanks.
All right. Well, Ron definitely takes the cake for leaving me with the least information to go off of in terms of what the hell we are talking about. I definitely was not expecting, when I saw a children's book, I assumed there was, on this political. It's the vlog itself is not really political, and that's kind of the point, is that they want to produce content that isn't directly political but is ancillary to their political content to create culture. They it was they often quote Andrew Breitbart saying that politics is downstream of culture, and so if you can create culture, then you can affect politics. And so that's where the vlog of the Castle started. And so it's quite fitting that actually that Ron would send this completely innocuous, completely apolitical children's book to them. And it makes a lot more sense when the main producer of the show just got married, and to understand that he sent that for that reason. But yeah, I was assuming something political, and that definitely exposed something about me, that I have certain predispositions to think that, oh, this must be that, when clearly that wasn't the case. But on the good side, I think it's not that every single person is trying to get their message out to every little person and get every I don't mean little person like a child, like every little, you know what I mean. It's not that everybody is trying to get their ideology shoved down the throats of everybody that they know. And the fact that it seems to be only going in one direction, where people are looking to create this type of culture, to create entertainment for adults and children alike, that has nothing to do with politics. You see on Netflix, Discovery Plus, Disney, who all of their originals are very, very highly politicized, and they're not, specifically for conservatives, and that's fine. But sometimes people don't want political content. People just want to be entertained. And especially children. There is no reason that children need to be inundated, especially more than they already are, with adult concepts of what the world should be and society. People are so quick to determine that what they think about the world is something that everybody else should think. And it's so refreshing that even though Ron definitely has some strong opinions about a lot of different things, that it's not something that he feels the children need to be engaged in. And that is something that is extremely refreshing. And I really don't know what what the landscape of children's literature looks like. Sorry, but it seems like it's getting harder and harder to find those stories that don't have a political leaning and that are just fun. And so maybe I'm wrong. Let me know down below if I'm talking out my ass and there's plenty of stories about absolutely nothing to do with politics. Maybe so, but I haven't heard a lot about them. And as somebody without kids who isn't interested in purchasing children's educational materials, then all that I've heard in the last few years has not been in this vein where it's like, hey, let's entertain the children first and then whatever else. And sometimes nothing else. So that is really refreshing. And if you are I don't even necessarily think there's anything wrong with putting a political message packaged in a way that a child can understand it. I don't necessarily think that's inherently a bad thing. Um but it is something that is a little bit regardless of what the message is, there's a little bit of an insidious nature that this indoctrination that the children don't understand that you are trying to get them to understand this message. Even if it's a message that I agree with, it doesn't sit well with me that the children are not willing participants of that. And it seems to be a very strong push for children to be able to consent to more and more and more things. And I don't even really want to say where I see that going. But it's very important that we pay attention to the connection and the correlation between what's going on with those two specific things, where there's issues with children and there's issues with consent. Those two things should never intersect because children, we have agreed as a society, as a civilization, that without having your brain developed, you are not able to consent to certain things. Some things you can. If you want a lollipop, then you don't need a 25-year-old fully functioning brain to consent to eating a lollipop. But there are many other things that, again, I don't want to speak of, that other people of other ideologies feel that children need to be consenting. And people like myself, and again, I can't speak directly for Ron, but I'm going to make the assumption that we don't want children even engaging with those choices and deciding whether or not to consent, much less actually consenting and engaging with these behaviors. It's scary. I am very glad that I don't have children in this world. And I hate that that is the way that it is because I would love to want to have children, but I don't. And I would need to see a lot change in society in general for me to feel comfortable bringing children into this world. Um, so sorry that got a little bit dark after episode about a children's book, but children are important. What children learn, what children see, what children do, it's important. And it has grave effects. And so if you don't stop to think, okay, what does this message, what does this book, what does this idea on a children's mind, what does it do when it's given time to fester and be entangled with a child's imagination? It seems like we're skipping over that part with certain things. And again, I don't really feel like I need to call anybody out, but if you know what I'm talking about, then it's pretty clear that these things should not be in front of children. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask the question. I'm happy to have the conversation with you in text. I don't even feel comfortable saying it on the platform. It's gone that far. It's gone that far. And I really am grateful for people like Ron who, again, have strong political opinions, but understand that what the children need is something very different than what grown adults need. So thank you very much to Ron. I think that was fantastic. Make sure you go if you have children, if you know children, if you have a niece, if you have a nephew, go click the link in the description and buy that book. And you won't have to worry about what messages it's sending because it's just a fun little story about a boy who thinks he's a cat, or maybe a cat who thinks he's a boy. I don't know. I didn't read it, but you can. And the link's right down there. So check that out. We also, of course, have those support links. I am trying to do bigger and better stuff. I need your help. So please do check out the support links. But of course, it is absolutely free to like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend. All of that stuff is absolutely free, and I would very much appreciate if you could do it. It definitely helps the channel. But even if you don't want to do that and you just want to sit at home and think about how awesome I am and how great this show is, you can do that too. And with that, until next time, I am out of here. Don't forget to follow me on socials. I am IDRYBlutch. I am out of here. Peace.